Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Reset with Raven. This channel is for anyone who knows about resets because they've been through their own or they're seeking a reset, a new way of thinking, believing, operating, and living. Today, we are joined with a special guest. Frank Harvey is a senior contracts lead at Honeywell International in Phoenix, Arizona. He is responsible for negotiating and managing multi-million dollar contracts within the aerospace division. Prior to working for Honeywell, Frank has worked for Arizona State University and McCoppin and Associates law firm. Frank is a certified professional contract manager with the National Contract Management Association and has presented in conferences and seminars with the National Association of Educational Procurement. His areas of expertise include government procurement, federal contracting, and data privacy matters. Frank is a proud alumnus of the University of Georgia and has earned a Juris Doctorate degree from North Carolina Central University. Without further ado, please welcome my longtime friend, Frank Harvey.
Thanks, Raven, for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Awesome. And I am excited to have you. Now, Frank, I know that you've had a series of resets in your life, but one of the most significant has been in discovering your calling. Tell us more about that.
Yes. And so back in law school, I was set on wanting to be in New York, working in one of the really large law firms, doing government procurement, living in a high rise. But then I realized that when I wasn't getting the opportunities that I wanted, that maybe those were not for me. I found myself really restricting my search and what I was looking for to just one particular area without understanding that that might not really be what's for me. It took me having a conversation with one of my mentors, David Scoglio. He's a former CFO of Strata Solar. And he told me not to limit myself in location nor field. And so it wasn't until I found myself applying for different opportunities across the United States that I landed an opportunity at a financial intelligence firm in Phoenix, Arizona. At the time, I knew nothing about Arizona other than it was hot. And so at the end of 2016, I moved to Phoenix and I realized that that was not for me. That job field was just not for me just after about 3 days. But the Arizona location it was amazing. It had the beautiful mountain views. No matter which direction I turned, I saw a mountain of some sort. And so I figured, why not find other opportunities within, Arizona? And so I applied to work for MindBite, which is a software company. And during my time there, I did well. I enjoyed working with the coworkers, but it gave me a little more time to seek other opportunities. And it wasn't until I applied for a position at Arizona State University within their procurement department doing contracts, primarily SaaS agreements, software agreements, that I figured this is what I've been looking for. It wasn't going all the way to New York to work in a suit all day. It was within the education field that I really should have considered this first. And so I applied for the job and I got the job. And I was at Arizona State for about a full 3 years. And I enjoyed every minute of it. There are days I missed it a lot, but I really enjoyed it. And I realized that doing contracts, negotiating contracts, and managing contracts, that was what I was meant to do. And so my reset was understanding that I don't have to always go with what society says I should be or live this really big, fabulous life in this really huge city and high rises, but really doing something outside the box that makes me just as happy.
So I want to take a deeper dive on what you just said. I don't have to live the way society has told me that I have to live. One of the things that I admire so much about you, Frank, is that you are willing to take chances and go for whatever you want and have new opportunities and new experiences. And I can relate to that. For those who know me, they know that I've lived all over the country. I've lived from California to New York and now in Georgia. So I've made my way around and some other states in between, as well as I've lived in Phoenix, Arizona. And I think it's so important to make sure that we do what makes us happy. And I think it's so important to be willing to try different things. I think had Frank and I talked 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I'm not sure that you could have nailed on the head, oh, I want to do procurement, right? So over time, you recognize and found this is my sweet spot. This is what I'm enjoying. This is where I need to be in this particular season in my life. So talk to us more about going outside of society's norms. What does that mean for you as for Frank, and what does that mean for you as a professional in terms of career exploration as well as in terms of Frank exploration? In you talked about nature and the beautiful scenery that Arizona provides. What does that mean in terms of you just trying some different things? I know one of the things you like to do is get in your vehicle and drive. So tell us more about that.
It's funny that you mentioned I like to get my vehicle and drive because I did that just before we
Oh,
got together. I went up to a small town called Wittenberg, Arizona, and there's not much there, but there's some beautiful scenery, amazing homes, and just seeing that and going to a different location has allowed me to gain my peace and to let everything that's part of my norm to just take a back seat and enjoy what's in front of me.
mm,
But going into not really following what society tells me, I understand society wants me to be a certain thing. There's things listed on social media that says I should be this or I should be that, but I can't control what society thinks about me, nor can I control what society tells me to be. But I have 100% control over my response to it, and my response to it is find someone else. It's just not me. I am not meant to be, the professional athlete, even though I've been told I should play football in the NFL. That's not for me. It just isn't. And when I let society do what they want to do and say what they want to say and not devote energy or time to it, it makes it clear that I'm in full control of the path that I want to take. If I want
oh,
to
I
take
wait,
the
wait, wait. We can't just run through that. That is powerful. I want to re-emphasize what you just said. Can you just repeat that last sentence? That's powerful.
Okay. So whatever, I'll actually expand into it more.
Okay.
So understand that society is going to have an opinion. Society is going to say, Frank, you should be this, you should be that. You should be this amazing football player playing for this team, that team, without understanding that's not what my calling is. That's not what I want to do. And I have no interest in it. So yes, society's gonna have tons of opinions on what I should be, but I just refuse to accept that. I
Mm.
refuse to allow society to dictate how I should live my life and how I should, you know, choose which direction to go. 100%, not 99, not 98. 100% do I have control over the path I want to take. And it was understanding that I was able to allow society to take that back seat, to be behind the partition and watching me do the things that I want to do and take the risks that I want to take. And when I recognized that and realized that, it became very freeing. It felt like there were chains that were finally
Mm,
breaking off.
not break every chain, Tasha Cobbs.
Yes, it actually felt like, I don't have to allow everyone to dictate how I live my life. I can be what I want to be, do what I want to do, and let the world just be my oyster. And once I recognized that in 2016, everything, it just became clear. So many doors opened up for me that I didn't realize were there. And it's going through those doors that it's landed me to a career that I love, a job that I love, being in a location that I love as well, and still maintaining those strong relationships with friends, family, and peers that make me happy and that bring value to my life.
I love that. It's so important to be in an environment that you love. And I think that creates that synergy, that energy that helps you be the best you, helps you to have that peak performance and lead and live a life that you love. You talked about mentorship and how that was helpful for you. Expound upon that for us.
Yes. So at the time, there were times when I didn't know why so many doors were being shut in my face, when I was getting so close to that checker flag, to finding something to keep me going, that I would just fall in place and lose. And so it took me having to reach out, find someone who has been successful, and just ask the questions. What is it that I'm doing wrong? Or how would I approach something from a different aspect? And it's always good to hear the opinions of others who are on the outside looking in, because they'll be able to say things that you probably did not think of. And it's also important to ask someone whom you would trust. Some people don't really have your best interests and just want to fill your head with their own opinions versus bringing some value that's going to move you forward or advance you forward in your life. And so it took me asking the right questions to the right people to realize that, I was approaching things in a very one-sided way, or with just one street, without understanding that the goal is to get to the end goal of being happy and finding a career and a job that I love. And understanding that there's never one way to do that. There's multiple ways. There's an unlimited amount of ways, actually, to get to that point. It's just making sure to see those roads as you go. So once I did that, once I humbled myself and recognized those roads, I was able to take a different path to get me to that end game. So mentorship is very important, but also understanding that not only should I be the mentee, but I should also be a mentor to someone else.
Mm,
And
reach
I've
back and reach out. Yes.
Yes. So giving back to my own community, there's actually an individual whom I do mentor. He worked with me when I was at Arizona State University. He was an undergrad at the time, and it took me fostering that relationship, because we are very different people, but I've grown to respect him a lot, and I saw a lot of his goals and ambitions there in front of me that I would hate to see him fail in any way. So I made sure that I give him my time and help him through his journey. And when that moment when he asked me to write him a letter of recommendation to law school, I made sure it was, when I signed that paper, it was going to be the thing that got him into law school. And I will say, less than 24 hours after I submitted it, he got in. And so I make sure to give back to individuals and help to see them grow and be successful. There are other people I've taken in as mentees as well, and I make sure to keep in touch with them to see if they're okay and give my time.
I love that. One of the things you talked about was mentorship. And what I heard you say also underneath that mentorship was collaboration. And sometimes we have blinders and we need assistance, we need help, we need people to that have gone before us. So you were a graduate of law school, so you helped someone who was an undergraduate. And I think it's so important to recognize you don't have to be a superstar, famous, or celebrity to help and to assist people. I've often heard the term "just be one step ahead," and in this particular situation, the person that you mentored, you were ahead of them in your career and in your educational experience, so you reached out to help them, and I think that is super important. And I was actually on Clubhouse today, and I was in a room. Shout out to the No Excuse Today Club. And one of the topic today was it takes two, and knowing the importance of partnership and collaboration and being that mentor as well as mentee in certain situations, just knowing what is your particular position in this relationship. Sometimes it's where you need to be the mentee, and other times it's where you need to be the mentor. So I think that is super important as we think about what type of life we're living and what type of legacy we are leaving. So that's super important. Thank you so much for talking about how not only are you have you experienced mentorship, you also are of service as being a mentor. So that's awesome. One of the things I also wanted to talk about is we talked about relationships in your mentorship relationship, also too you being a close friend of mine. Relationships are super important to both you and as well as they are important to me. So I want to know in your career journey as well as your and having so many demands on you after we talked about all the things that you've accomplished, how are you making sure that your relationships don't suffer in your resets, because you're moving across the country, you're doing all these different things in your career, but how do you make sure that your personal relationships don't suffer as you continue to grow as an individual and as a professional? How do you make sure you protect and foster your relationships?
What makes it a challenge for me is right now I am out on near the West Coast, and a lot of my family is actually all my family is on the East Coast. Many of my friends are on the East Coast, so there's that time factor or time difference factor that I have to consider. At the same time, I understand that if I don't keep those relationships, that bridge can dwindle down and I could potentially lose them, and that's not something I want. And so I make sure to devote time for really reaching out to family and friends and keeping in touch with them, even if it's something as small as a text message reaching out saying, "Hey, how are you doing?" and having that conversation. That's something I find very valuable. Something as small as hello, it may not cost a lot, but it has such a big value in continuing that relationship and keeping that relationship. I understand people are busy, people have jobs, family, and careers they have to tend to, and I respect that wholeheartedly. But it's those people and those relationships that I value so much because those individuals have valued me, and I want to keep that relationship. I don't want that to be put on the back burner, and so I make sure to devote time to reaching out to friends and family, making sure that they're okay, hearing some of the adventures that they're going through, and it helps me so much because it gives me a chance to embrace that positivity and to continue just that positive energy that I've been wanting so long. I get to have that within those relationships. And given I'm single, I don't have a family, I don't have a puppy or any kids, having those relationships are very important for me.
Thank you for sharing that. And I bring that up because I think that when people are in the midst of a reset or have just experienced a reset or are going about to go through a reset, sometimes that is forgotten to make sure that you still have strong relationships. You still have, that board of governors that are friends and family that you can come to, and just sometimes vent to and have just to support you as you're experiencing your resets. And I think it's so important when we talk about wealth and we talk about health, having strong and healthy and wealthy relationships. And wealthy, and when I say wealthy, in no terms the means of money, but in terms of a strength that is in that relationship, a love and a respect that's in that relationship. Those are, invaluable. There's no price that we can put on those. And I think it's super important as we go through our lives that we make sure that we continue to have strong relationships. And I think for me as an adult, I didn't feel that until I lived in Houston for a little over 4 years, and I built really strong relationships there. And after I moved from Houston, it was super important for me for the first time in my adult life to make sure that I continued to have those strong relationships and I continue to do whatever I could to meet up with the people that I met in Houston, to connect with them, to talk with them, to check in on them, no matter what, even no matter where I live, because those are relationships that were important to me. And I remember, and those are people that I loved. And I remember my pastor, when I was younger, would say, "How do I spell love?" And he said, ACTION, action, because love is what it does. So I think it's so important to have strong relationships in your resets and as you're experiencing your resets, and definitely after a reset when you're, going into uncharted or unfamiliar territory.
I
So thanks so much for sharing that with us. So I just completely switching gears again. One of the things that I know about you is that you are a phenomenal cook. And I think I have a hunch, and I want you to just tell me if my hunch is right and just expand upon that or expound upon that, that cooking is a reset for you as well. It's a release, it's a relaxation. So tell us more about, your why you cook and bake and what does that do for your spirit? And yeah, I want to know about that.
For me, cooking is everything. And so I really got into cooking when I lived in Durham, North Carolina. I realized that I didn't have the opportunity to always go home and get that home cooked meal made by my mom or my grandmothers. And so, and also at the time, fast food was very expensive. I love Chick-fil-A, but it could hurt the wallet. And so I really started to cook and try different recipes out to see what it is that I really like to do. But it wasn't until I moved to Phoenix, Arizona that I really dived into cooking. Just yesterday, I actually took some cast iron style macaroni and cheese and a white chocolate raspberry cheesecake over to a friend of mine, and they all loved it. I feel that cooking gives me that opportunity to connect to my home because my mom, my dad, my grandmothers, they love to cook, they love to entertain. Food just brings so much happiness to me. And there's nothing like putting on some good old school music. Anita Baker. You can put on some Jacqueline Carr, maybe some Kirk Franklin. Pop on a bottle of wine and just cook and have a good time. It's a release. It gives me that connection to home that that keeps me going. Given again, my big home is on the East Coast.
Nice, nice. And why is family so important to you?
For me, family, they are everything for me because I grew up with them. I have amazing relationships with my sisters. They are just so much. They mean so much to me. My parents, they're just wonderful. They keep me going. They give me wisdom, and they give me the strength to move on and be successful in my life. And just also seeing my nieces and nephews, cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents, seeing all the great things that they're doing, it allows me to say, they've done it and they are a big support system for me. And so no matter what happens, I know I have them in my corner. So family for me is huge. While physically I can't be near my family right now, given is going on in planes and stuff, I still make sure to keep in touch with them because they do bring me a lot of happiness.
Awesome. Awesome. So before I ask my last question, where can we find you? Where can we find you if we're looking? We just want some more of Mr. Frank Harvey.
What's interesting about that? I would say you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I don't have any of those. And I can tell you why. In law school, it was summer 2015. I told myself I want to get all A's this summer. And so I said, let me experiment. I'm going to deactivate Facebook, Twitter, all that. And miraculously, I got all A's. I have not gone back since. But on the professional sense, you can find me on LinkedIn. I am on LinkedIn.
Awesome. 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 And final question. What's your biggest lesson from your reset?
My biggest lesson from my reset is understanding that my calling may be something that's different from what I think it could be. Had I done something else or just done what, say, society says I should do, I could be good at it. I could be a great salesman or be the best lawyer ever, but I could potentially be miserable. And it doesn't matter if I'm good at it. If I'm miserable, it means nothing. And so, expounding on that, going to a location and doing something that I actually enjoy, that I wake up in the morning and smile about. That's my calling, is being able to give my energy to it and enjoying the result, enjoying the process, enjoying every aspect of it. That is what I'm meant to do. That's what brings me happiness. And it's taking on that reset that has landed me to where I am today in doing something that I love to do.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Frank. I am appreciative. I am grateful. Thank you so much. Everyone, I just think that this was wonderful. This was phenomenal. Frank dropped so many gems as well as told us about the importance of reset, the importance of redirections, and the importance of following your calling. So thank you so much, Frank. We appreciate you. Hopefully, everyone, this has been valuable and you can take something out of this and apply it to your life. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe and share with your communities. I would love to hear your feedback as well. So please message me and connect with me on all social media at Raven M. Harris. And remember, a reset is always available to you.